So he starts going off though at first, and he goes, "Yeah, like I murdered my ex or what have you, right?" I guess it would be an ex once you murdered them, right? But anyways, I was just like thinking about how I worded that.
We're still together.
Yeah, we're still together, but no. But so he's like, "Yeah, so I killed my girlfriend, and then I killed my mother." And what you end up finding out, like over time, so then he starts confessing to all these murders. Well, what about these other girls? And the cops that were there, so they were Texas Rangers. What they were doing was they kind of just like kept showing him images and stuff like that of these crime scenes. So he would say, "Oh yeah, like I did this, I did that," but they had already like said these things to him. Mm-hmm. And what they found, so later on in like the series, it's a really good series, you end up finding out that they like scan his brain, and the reason why he's basically a sociopath is his parietal lobe, right? So the whole side, and then his frontal lobe is really damaged. So this is like personality and everything, right? And your empathy. Yeah. So when you damage those two things, you basically can create like a serial killer, right? And they were heavily damaged on him from probably, they're guessing, his mother from beating him and stuff, right? And so he had killed, but they also found damage. I can't remember where. It was another part of the brain, and it basically made him almost very, I don't know if compliance is the right word, but you would say something or whatever, and he would just do whatever you needed to like please you. Like he was a chronic liar. He couldn't stop lying, and he would just do this so that he basically wouldn't get in trouble, right? And while he was in their custody, because they didn't like handcuff him and put him in jail and all that, they let him basically walk around freely inside the building because he was so trustworthy and he was giving all this information, right? And it ended up, yeah, you ended up finding out that like it was because of this brain damage that he had, right? So these cops basically used him. That's where I was circling around. His cops basically used him to like promote themselves, right? And then as evidence started coming out, because now all of a sudden as time went on, there was like DNA evidence and stuff like that. And they're like, he couldn't possibly have done these murders. How many of these murders has he said he's done? But nobody like, but you know, these families, they believe that he did it and stuff, right? And you end up finding out that he was like not involved in any of it. Like they're like, yeah, he probably killed his mom, and then that was like it. The girlfriend, later on you find out she's alive. Even after she's alive and she's like, yeah, this is me, blah blah blah, they're still just like, well, we're gonna keep this guy in jail, whatever, yeah. Right?
So many times that's
I'm like, what?
They
like
just don't
that
want to
doesn't
admit
even
that they were wrong, and so they just keep running with it. It's like, well,
yeah,
if you didn't kill this guy, you must have killed somebody else.
Yeah.
Let's just keep him here.
And I mean, obviously not to take away from like real situations, I just think it's very odd that that can even happen. How can you have like everything presented in front of you showing that the truth you've said is not true, and just in natural human like ways, right? We're just in denial of it. We're like, nah, like even though you're telling me that this and showing me that the evidence is that, I'm still going to say that it's wrong. I'm still not going to believe what you're going to say.
Oh, yeah.
And you see that translate like across the board with like a lot of people, a lot of things, right? It's always just like, how often does your boss tell you that they screwed up? You know?
Yeah. Well, even just looking at that too, and where you have that, and now it's just think of these movies, and if the media got a hold of it and how they can play it up, how many people would have been like, oh, that guy did it, he's a killer, like
that's what they were doing.
And you could have it either way. You could have it just by the information and how the media takes it and which direction they take it, and then you get those people, like I say, that they're the ones that, oh well, this person should be killed. Well, that guy, for what he did there, he should be killed, and it's like, okay, well, the guy's perfectly innocent.
Yeah. So to speak on that, so what happened was there was a coalition of women who wanted to, they were obviously upset because this guy apparently like either killed their sister, the mother, whatever. So totally understandable, right? But they banded together, they formed this group, and we're like, okay, like, you know, we're going to make sure he gets the death penalty, even though he ended up getting off of death penalty at one point, right? And they still were like, okay, so how they, and this shows like kind of how the brain works, right? Where like you're not just gonna like go with the most obvious conclusion. You're gonna go with how you feel, right? Because what happened was is they proved that he wasn't the killer in these cases that he was supposed to get the death penalty for. But they were like, well, that proves that he didn't kill those girls, but our girls, we don't know that, so he must have done it. Was kind of the mentality. And they even, like, the one woman was even admitting that. She's like, I didn't care. Like, I just wanted blood. Like, I wanted, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I understand it, right? I can see that. I mean, you're totally distraught and upset about what's going on. But it just shows, like, what's going on behind the hood, right? Like, how... And it was funny because it was the same woman later on, and she goes over the evidence again, and she's like, I don't even know how I, like, believed this. Like, it doesn't add up. She's like, it definitely wasn't him. And it took until they found like more evidence or whatever for her to finally be like, hey, I'm going to let it go, right? But it seems like when human beings latch onto an idea or something, they're stuck. It's very hard for them to shake it off. Like especially if it's something that they like, that means a lot to them, right?
Yeah,
like
if you tie a lot of emotion to it
or whatever.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that's, I mean, it is, I mean, it can be a wonderful thing, right? Tying a bunch of emotion can be like creative and do all this other stuff. But I think for like what's challenging, I guess now for a lot of people, is that you're tying emotion to like logic problems, right? So we end up in these weird situations where human beings like they fall through the cracks.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because we're sitting there trying to be like, oh, well, it's a justice system and here's the rules and here's how it works and everything. But yet, again, the people who tend to get caught up into it are like those who are, you know, mentally challenged or have mental illness or, you know what I mean? It's not like, there's definitely people who have done some horrible things who are just like hanging out, right? Yeah. And you're just kind of like, oh, like, you know, what, like, well, we were talking about the businessman thing off camera, right? Where they're sitting there, they'll go and they got all these people involved in like some business, then they just like tank the business and like destroy people's lives. Like now you're just like, okay, you're out of a job, whatever. And there's no like repercussions for anything like that, but they're not doing anything illegal.
Well, no, usually it's like if anything, it's a corporation that they've drawn up, and now that's corporations held liable. So the corporation gets sued, maybe they lose millions of dollars or whatever, but at the end of the day,
but there's no money there.
Yeah, the person. Well, yeah, the money's probably already taken out of her, or
for sure.
The person that's kind of the victim is it's just a victimless crime. It's just money's gone, right?
Yeah.
It's not like anybody was hurt. But.
Like, it is odd that we'll take a corporation and we'll treat it like it's a human being, right? Like, we're like, oh, it was, you know, Walmart did this to people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like Apple, oh, look at Apple go. Like, it ruined these people's lives. But it's not Apple doing it, right? Like, people are actively making choices to create an environment for people to work in.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you see the thing on the Vegas shooting?
No. Okay, so
you should take a look at that too.
What, is this again Netflix or something, or what?
That was I don't know if it's on Netflix or Prime, but it was on one of those.
Ooh, Prime's good.
And but it was how kind of like the involvement from MGM, because
like the casino.
Yeah, like the part that they kind of just kind of brush it all under the carpet, but remember when they were talking about the guy that did it?
So, okay, is this the shooting like in the 90s, right?
No, this is just recently. The one in Vegas.
That one that was, so that
from
was...
the hotel room.
What was that, mid-2000s now?
I think it was like 2016. This was just
Was it that
recent.
Was it that late?
I would say, yeah, probably within the last... It's definitely within the last 10 years.
Because there was a shooting, I think, in the 90s, too.
No. This one is...
But this is the newer one that you're
this is the one at that concert outside.
Right.
That outdoor concert.
Right. Whose concert was that again? That
was country.
It was country, yeah. Okay. That's why I don't listen to country. I just...
It's dangerous.
Dude, them outlaws, man. No,
But
not to make
the
light
guy
of it,
that
but not to make light of it.
the guy that did it, he like because they kind of played it off that he was just there was no real reason for him. He
Was
just
he
went kind
military or something?
of no, he was just like your average guy. I guess him and his brother did some business or whatever. They made a bunch of money,
Okay.
and then he was in the casinos, and he was a regular at the casino.
Oh,
And that's the kind of part that they didn't really talk about. But
okay.
he was a regular at the casino, and then they kind of started to like the casino always gives you like perks. It's like, okay, well, you put this much money in the bank account, or you're willing to spend this much money. They give you a comp room or comp this.
Yeah, I've
And
heard.
so
Yeah.
they started pulling back on all their comps
Okay.
for him, and then
Oh no.
so that it doesn't really give them the permission to go out and do what he did, kind of thing. But
Obviously,
and
yeah.
how do you hold them accountable for that? But like just how they played it up and how they kind of just bury a lot of stuff.
Wait, so are you saying that there was like this guy openly said like, "Hey, I'm doing this because I wasn't getting my gambling"?
No, but and
compensation?
that's the whole thing too. Is it like
Or how does this
with
go?
with the Netflix thing that the way they played it up, they probably played up the aspect of setting that seed in your mind of, okay, well, this is probably why it all happened. The guy went nuts because they were screwing him over at the casino, but it doesn't make sense to go out and kill a bunch of people because of it. But it wasn't like what they had said, where this guy, he just went crazy and we don't know why he did it. But there is a lot more to it.
So the original story was, we have no idea. We don't even know where this came from. Just left field.
He's just,
and then when you dig into it a bit more, they're like, well, he was probably agitated because he was doing bad gambling and didn't want to do this. But there must be more to it than that, because I mean, there's
you
don't
a ton
just
of it.
snap because you're gambling, right?
When you're gambling with large amounts of money, like
Was
we're
he,
talking
like,
like
big
millions
time?
of dollars. Like,
Really?
Yeah, like it was big for him, and he was losing a bunch of money, and then I don't know whether I don't really remember on the exact details of it, but I think it was where he had started losing a bunch of money, and so he didn't have that money to kind of. So then he was like, okay, well, like, rather than comping it, now I know they brought him out for one room, and he flew all the way out there, and they're like, well, we're sold out, but we can get you this upgraded room, but only charge you $500 for it, kind of thing. And they kept doing stuff like that to him, and so they just kept pissing him off.
So you think he did it out of ego then? Do you want a non-alcoholic beer?
No, I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah.
Do you need water or anything?
Maybe in a little bit. I'm good right now, though.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry, go on.
But
so do you think he did it based just on ego?
Well, that makes more sense of the stuff that was going on in his life. Like, it doesn't make any sense for a person to go out and just do what he did.
Totally.
Regardless.
Well, obviously.
But
because
obviously
people
he
lose
wasn't
money
trying-
at the casino all the time. They're not like running around shooting everyone, right?
Yeah.
That's just like, that would be insane.
Obviously, he wasn't playing with a full deck, and then to go out and do what he did. But there is stuff that agitated him and irritated him. And,
That was a casino pun, by the way. Go on.
Yeah. So I think there's more to it. Like in MGM, they buried a bunch of stuff. And
Oh, you think there's something there?
like
hidden?
even